Hey guys, going to your plus back to more today, and I'm finally adding on to my mock draft catalog with my third of the season. This will be the last one before the end of the season. I know creators like Bengal do one every week. I don't do them every week. I don't think it's worth it doing them every single week, especially earlier on in the season. But this will be one of the more accurate ones since the records aren't going to be changing too much from this. This is probably the same top five you're going to see at the end of the season, or if not, very, very similar. Bad news, the Falcons have dropped all the way to 15 after being, like 23 at some point? I don't want to talk about it, man, alright? I don't. So let's just start the draft. And if you're the Raiders, maybe like some of what Aiden O'Connell has been doing, but you need a long-term option at QB. I've seen people give them a QB, and I think that's the only thing that makes sense. Right now, the least mistake-prone QB looks like Shedeur Sanders, even though I will be honest, dang, Carson Beck completely dropped to 98. But Karen Ward seems good when he's not pressured the entire game. But I will go with Sanders for the Raiders, and I'll leave the Giants to pick up the scraps and go with Karen Ward. I mean, this is really either. I could see the Raiders picking Ward and the Giants going Sanders, but I think both of these teams absolutely need QB. Tommy DeVito's not a long-term option either for the Giants, and if you say he is, you're just insane. The Patriots are next, and they're pretty happy. I mean, they're at number 3, but it feels like you're at number 1 because you don't care about the QBs. You get to pick anybody you want here, and somebody that I've had going number 1, I think, before, number 2, and is also a Colorado player, is Travis Hunter. I mean, listen, man, Gentry's cool, but you don't want to pick running back. You don't. Who was the Patriots? They don't even really need running back. Even though Travis Hunter might not win Heisman over Gentry, I'm just going to go with Hunter, actually, but Gentry could very well win it as well. I think the Raiders got to pick Travis Hunter here, which leads us to the Panthers. Earlier in the year, it was possible that they would pick quarterback, but Bryce Young has had a pretty decent season since he returned his starting job. And I think it's either Mason Graham or Abdul Carter here. And I'm going to go with Carter just because I feel like Derek Brown is good for the Panthers for interior. And they did lose Brian Burns, which brings us to the Jaguars. And what does it say? It doesn't say their needs here. Well, it doesn't really matter. But they don't need quarterback. I mean, Trevor Lawrence hasn't been the best player for them. Their offense has been really disappointing this year. And they can't get Travis Hunter. But I do think they'll take the opportunity and draft McMillan here, who's fallen a little bit on this board. But they could definitely use a receiver. Well, it's not something they had a real number 1 receiver on their team. I mean, maybe, say, Calvin Ridley. But he's not really like a top 15 receiver or anything. All right, next we got the Titans. Oh, there's team needs. This one says they could pick offensive tackle or receiver. I think I've had them pick McMillan more than once. Well, I've only done 2 mock drafts. So I think I've had them pick McMillan at least once. But he just got picked by their division rival, the Jaguars. So I think I'm going to go with Will Campbell. He won Offensive Lineman Award or whatever for the SEC. So good for Campbell, and he will be the 6th pick. I think I usually have offensive lineman going a little bit earlier than this, maybe? I'm not sure. I can't remember. I haven't done a mock draft in so long. I was hoping the Falcons could get a win before I did another one. It didn't happen. Anyway, next we've got the New York Jets. QB, they can't pick quarterback. There's just not one you can pick this early. And since it's not the end of the season yet, I'm not going to be doing trades yet. So, Jets are going to stick and pick. It's hard to say. Like, I don't think they need anything on offense. They have a talented team. They just can't bring it together. Maybe it is the coach, but Aaron Rodgers hasn't had the greatest year. I mean, he had like one good game recently, but I think it's hard because Mason Graham and Will Johnson are both really good players, and you're sitting at 7, and somehow both of those guys are still on the board. Who do you go with? I think you go with Graham. I think you go with Mason Graham here. Crazy to see Will Johnson dropping so low, but I think he has been injured, so. Next are the Browns. Maybe they stick with Winston one more year because there's not a quarterback worth picking this early. I'm sorry, I just can't see them reaching for Milrow. I can't see them reaching for him. So I think the Browns are going to avoid quarterback, and I think they are just going to pick Will Johnson. It's still a hard pick, though. They could pick receiver, but that means they'd have to go down for Luther Burden, who's a good player. He announced for the draft pretty recently. Next, we've got the Bears, and they still need offensive line. Caleb Williams is still getting harassed week after week. And even though Georgia's been cooking him, I think they need to pick Kelvin Banks. And I think edge might even be a bigger need for the Bears right now, but they need to keep Caleb Williams healthy and not getting pressured every time. I think they're going to prioritize, what's it called? I think they're going to prioritize their rookie QB over their struggling defense. So that's what I'm going to go with. Kelvin Banks here. Next, you got the Saints, and they love how this draft has gone. No edge rushers have been selected, except for Abdul Carter by the Panthers, which, of course, is their division rival. But they've still got Michael Williams here, still got Skeleton, still got Pierce, and anyone else in the top 20? Not really. But, I mean, obviously, I think they got to go with Williams. I mean, Skeleton, too, I'm a Georgia fan, so this might be biased. I think I had them going Williams once before, too, so maybe it's not biased. I don't know. Maybe it's destiny. It's pretty crazy that this says the Bengals need to go with offense because their defensive backs are terrible. But the question is, do you pick safety this early? That's the question that we all have to ask. Or they pick Siobhan Revel, who's out for the season, but is a great cornerback for ECU. And then Starks hasn't even been that great this year. That's another thing. Like he's been good, but I don't get how this thing says they don't need defensive backs, but we're going to pick Starks here. I mean, you can't reach that far for a corner. And we've seen safeties like Brian Branch, that even though they are safeties, are still very useful for the team, even though they're picked in the first round. I think Brian Branch was picked in the first round. Anyway, Cowboys. Ashton Genty, we got to explain it. Every Cowboy fan wants it. They need him. Dolphins have been a very weird team this year. I mean, they've been picking up wins recently, so they're not terrible. What could this team really use, though? They don't need running back. They don't need receiver. I mean, they got Jalen Phillips there. I mean, could they use tight end, possibly? I don't think they pick tight end. I think, Well, this isn't like, I'm not planning these out. Like, most of the time, especially this year, I'm just like going through and seeing, hey, what could this team possibly select? I don't think you go too far down the board if you're the Dolphins. I mean, it's really been their defense that's been struggling this year. I'm going to go with Nick Skeleton out of Texas A&M, another SEC edge rusher. Which brings us to the Colts, and this says they could use tight end. They do have no, they don't have that man. Who do they have a tight end? I'm not really sure, but I'm sure he's not good. This also says they could use defensive back. But I think they could use receiver too. And honestly, like they have Alec Pierce and Josh Downs. Yeah, let's go with Luther Burden, a monster of a receiver for them. And I've seen other people say the Falcons grab James Pierce. And honestly, if the Falcons don't grab edge rusher, I will become a Ravens fan or something. I don't know. James Pierce to the Falcons, please. Cardinals are next. I think the receiver corps could possibly use help with Marvin Harrison, but I don't know if they'd pick that 2 years in a row. I don't know if they go receiver 2 years in a row. This says they could use offensive guard. I think Cameron Williams is a decent pick, despite just like a lot of our offensive tackles in the draft. Georgia absolutely murdering them. But this also says the biggest need is defensive tackle, and I can agree the defensive line's pretty weak. But you have to go all the way down to Tyleik Williams from Ohio State. But I think it's such a big need that they pick him anyway. 49ers could use offensive tackle. We've got some good options here. Cornerback, Revel's still down here. It's not great corners after Hunter and Will Johnson. 49ers has been a very weird team this year. They have such a great roster, yet they're like 6-7. Kind of like the Falcons, except the 49ers actually have proven success and a veteran coach. Anyway, what do we go for here? I think we're just going to go offensive tackle. I mean, I feel like I've been going 49ers for offensive tackle for years, but Anyway, next we've got the Buccaneers at 7. No, that's next. That's the Rams are next at 18. Rams, elite offense, terrible defense. So we're gonna have to skip all of these guys. This says they could use cornerback or linebacker. Let's go Siobhan Reveral. I think he deserves to be a first round pick, and I have him being picked way higher than his big board at 25. Next are the Bucks, and they probably would have wished, because their defensive backs aren't amazing. Their defense is a problem. It's weird because their defense was great a little while ago. But I'm going to go over a defensive player again. And I hate this trend of Georgia players going to the Bucks, which Jen Rock would be an amazing pass rusher for Tampa Bay. Next, we've got the Commanders, and I think they could definitely go offense here. Really, if they end up going to the playoffs, maybe in wild card exit, it could be best player available for them. And Isaiah Bond's still on the board. He hasn't been great recently. He's been struggling to get open, but I mean, just the speed on him is enough that teams would pick him anyway, and I think that's what the Commanders are going to do here. Chargers. They're actually a really good defense compared to what you usually expect from the Chargers, which is a bunch of shootouts. Still have not had a tight end picked yet. Well, do they still have Gerald Everett? Is that still their tight end? Because Loveland could be in play here. Yeah, let's go from Colston Loveland, especially if Gerald Everett's still on that team, which is very possible. Broncos are next. It says they can use receiver. They did use Jerry Jeudy, but, I mean, when Bo Nix played against the Falcons, it seemed like they had all their receivers. Let's go offensive tackle. Let's go Jonah Savainea of Arizona. No idea who he is. I'm not even going to act like I do. Seahawks are next, and Seahawks, they still don't need anything on offense. Unless you say offensive line, which I think they don't really need to pick that. I think anything in the front seven is always a good pick for the Seahawks. And they don't have an edge rusher to go for here. Okay, so we'll scroll down here. Because, okay, you got Benjamin Morrison out of Notre Dame, who I think is fallen as well. Let's go with Derek Harmon out of Oregon, defensive tackle. Next are the Ravens, who are an interesting team. They feel like they should be better with than they actually are right now, which they're still good, but I don't know. I feel like they're going to be an elite team, and they're just haven't been that recently. Offensive guard, linebacker, cornerback, receiver. Would they draft receiver again? I don't know if they would. I don't think they would. Let's go with Tyler Booker out of Alabama. I think Alabama and Baltimore are kind of connected in the draft. Then we've got the Texans. Stroud's kind of falling off. I mean, Mika Buka, I said they should pick him last year. But now they have, Tank Dell, Nico Collins, Stephon Diggs. They don't need a Buka. So we'll look in another direction here. This says they could use receiver, but I don't think they could. So I think we gotta go defense here. And let's go with Benjamin Morrison out of Notre Dame. A lot of defensive picks later in this draft. Packers. They have Kenny Clark at defensive tackle and Drew Alexander, but I don't think they have a lot of depth on defense. It's not an amazing defense, but then again, whenever you play the Lions, your defense looks terrible no matter how good of a team you are. This says they can use running back. Who's the running back? Josh Jacobs? I don't think they need running back, especially not in the first round, but hey, it's their fourth and fifth need, so we'll go with we could go receiver here. I think it'd be fair to go Egbuka here, unless there's a better pick later on. But I think we're going to go Egbuka here for the Packers. Leads us to the Steelers selection. I mean, their D-line is insane. That doesn't need to be touched. Their cornerbacks, they've been drafting them for a while now. Same for offensive line. They've been drafting those for a few years. Do you go with safety Nick Emmanwori? If that's how you say his name. Listen, man, I'm not a name pronouncing genius, okay? Let's just pick him and move on, okay? Vikings are next. They get I mean, listen, man, Sam Thomas is doing so good. JJ McCarthy's injury might have been terrible for him because it seems like Darnold has a fair chance of being the starter next year, but also he could leave and go to another team and get the paycheck, which is actually, I think, is more likely to happen. So they will be probably using McCarthy next year. Receiver core is fine. Tight ends are fine. Running back, who's the running back? Who's the Vikings running back? Aaron Jones. Yeah, they're good there. So, I mean, Walter Nolan's here. They do need defensive tackle. I mean, I don't think Everson Griffin still plays. And if he is, he's probably not the same he used to be. Bills are next at 29. And the Bills are a really all-around great team this year. Of course, they usually do fumble the bag in the playoffs. Maybe it won't happen this year. We'll have to find out later. But they don't need tight end. I don't think the running back's any good. Or, is it? I don't think they're going to pick Omar Hampton anyway. This says they could use edge, and I can't really think of a good Bills edge rusher. And I know Milano's a good pass rusher, but he's not an edge player. But I could also see him going receiver. I mean, they have Keon Coleman and Amari Cooper, but neither of those guys are guaranteed number one receivers, like on every team or anything. So I'm not going to go Trey Harris, though. I am going to go Shamar Stewart out of Texas. Wait, they have two edge rushers in the first round. Good for them. Sadly, for the Eagles, there's no Georgia player to go reach for. I don't think there reaches. I'm just saying that. Like, they can't go out of their way to pick one right now. Eagles are in a spot for the tight end, I've heard people say. So even though they say it in a sad way, like they don't want him. Too bad you're getting Tyler Warren. You shouldn't have even mentioned it, C4. Next are the Kansas City Chiefs. And no matter how bad they play, they always find a way to win. Who will they pick? It's hard to say. I mean, they really don't need a specific position at all. They could easily just go best player available here and go Marion Hampton. But I also don't think they will. Maybe go help that defensive back group, which is slowly getting chipped away at every week. But, I mean, then again, it looks like there's not many... there's just not many great defensive backs to pick. So they're going to have to go with something else here. Linebackers are good. I'm not going to go with tight end for them. Let's just go with Trey Harris out of Ole Miss, which will bring us to the Lions. Final pick of the first round, and they will select... Let's go with Kenneth Grant out of Michigan. And that will conclude my third mid-season mock draft of the year. We're starting to get closer to those real draft positions. This is going to be close to the real ones in real life. At least in some ways. But I hope you guys enjoyed this one. Tell me which ones you agree with, which ones you disagree with, and tell me some draft hot takes in the comments down below. Make sure to comment down if you have any video ideas for me to do. And subscribe to both this channel and Goldie Jr. See you guys next time. Adios.